The deception. Commander Sophia Ellis watched through the observation dome as the construction drones methodically assembled the defense platform. The massive structure had been under construction for nearly 2 years, and by conventional estimates, it would take another 18 months to complete. That was the timeline she'd reported to the Galactic Concord representatives during their inspection last month. Another exciting day watching paint dry, Commander. Lieutenant Kai Zhang handed her a steaming cup of coffee as he joined her at the viewport. Ellis accepted the cup with a slight smile. You know what they say about us humans, Lieutenant. Slow and steady wins the race. Or at least that's what we want them to think, Zhang replied, his voice dropping to a whisper despite the privacy field that automatically engaged when senior officers discussed sensitive matters. Ellis nodded, taking a sip of her coffee. For over a century, humanity had cultivated a very specific reputation among the galactic community. Reliable, meticulous builders who constructed things to last, but who took an excruciatingly long time to do so. While other species like the crystalline Folians could assemble a battle cruiser in months, humans appeared to require years for similar projects. It was all an elaborate deception. Status update on Valkyrie Station, Ellis asked, referring to the lunar facility hidden beneath the crater Tycho, one of 43 classified installations scattered throughout Sol system alone. Still dark, Zhang replied. Director Chen reports readiness level at 98%. They can activate within 6 hours of receiving the signal. Ellis nodded, her eyes still fixed on the defense platform and its seemingly slow-moving construction drones. The platform was genuinely being built. That wasn't the deception. The lie was that it represented the pinnacle of human engineering capabilities. Any updates on the Ziraxian fleet movements? She asked. Zhang's expression darkened. Latest intelligence puts them at the edge of the Protean system. 3 more colony worlds have gone dark. The refugee ships that managed to escape report total planetary bombardment. Ellis closed her eyes briefly. The Ziraxian Imperium had emerged from beyond the galactic rim 18 months ago, their massive fleet of biomechanical vessels consuming everything in their path. Initially, they had avoided human space, focusing instead on the territories of the Delvians and Arcturians, species with more advanced technology, but smaller military forces. They're testing us, Ellis said quietly, watching how we respond. Or don't respond, Zhang added. The Galactic Concord is still debating intervention protocols while the Ziraxians consume entire civilizations. That's going to change soon. Ellis checked her secure comlink. The Emergency Federation Council meeting begins in 30 minutes. I need to be there. As Ellis made her way through the station toward the quantum comm chamber, she passed dozens of crew members going about their duties. None of them knew what was about to happen. None of them knew about Project Starforge, the greatest technological secret in human history. 114 years ago, Dr. Miranda Hawkins had made a breakthrough in quantum manufacturing. She discovered that by manipulating subatomic probability fields, matter could be arranged at exponentially accelerated rates. Instead of building ships piece by piece, humans could essentially grow them, collapsing quantum possibilities into predetermined patterns at unprecedented speeds. The Federation Council had immediately classified the technology at the highest level. Instead of revealing this revolutionary manufacturing process to the galaxy, humanity chose secrecy. They maintained the appearance of being slow, methodical builders, while secretly constructing hidden facilities throughout their territory. Facilities that could activate at a moment's notice and unleash manufacturing capabilities that would shock the galactic community. Why keep such technology secret? The answer was simple. Fear. Not humanity's fear, but the fear they would instill in others. The ability to rapidly construct a massive armada would terrify other species, potentially triggering preemptive strikes against what would be perceived as an existential threat. So humanity waited, building its infrastructure in secret, maintaining its harmless reputation, and preparing for a day they hoped would never come. That day had arrived. When Ellis entered the quantum comm chamber, The holoprojection showed the Federation Council chamber on Earth, already filled with representatives from all 27 human colony worlds. President Aliya Karim stood at the central podium, her normally composed features tight with concern. The Zeraxian Imperium has refused all diplomatic overtures, the president was saying as Ellis took her seat among the military commanders. Their latest communique states clearly that they consider human territory to be viable consumption zones for their expansion. Their fleet will reach the Ta City colony within 15 days. Councillor Harrison from the Eridani colonies rose. Ta City has a population of 3 billion. Even with continuous evacuation operations, we could only relocate a small fraction before the Zeraxians arrive. What about our fleet? Asked another representative. Surely we can mount some defense. Admiral Chen, the head of the Federation Navy, stood to address the question. Our current visible fleet consists of 412 combat vessels spread across human space. Intelligence estimates place the approaching Zeraxian force at approximately 3,700 warships. A stunned silence fell over the chamber. Then we have no choice, President Karim said quietly. She looked around the chamber, making eye contact with each council member. I am hereby requesting authorization to activate Protocol Starforge. The words sent a ripple through the assembly. Most had heard rumors of Starforge, but few knew the full details. This was by design. The fewer people who knew the entire truth, the less chance of leaks. The council vote took less than 5 minutes. Unanimous approval. President Karim nodded grimly. Authorization confirmed. Admiral Chen, you may proceed with activation. Admiral Chen approached a secure terminal, placed his palm on the scanner, and spoke clearly. Authorization, Chen. Admiral. Federation Navy. Omega Starforge activate. Throughout human space, dormant facilities began to awaken. On Earth's moon, Director Chen received the activation code and immediately began powering up the massive facility hidden beneath the lunar surface. Similar scenes played out on Mars, Europa, Titan, and dozens of asteroids throughout the solar system. Facilities disguised as mining operations, research stations, or uninhabited outposts. Back at her station, Commander Ellis received her specific orders through a quantum-encrypted channel. Her hands trembled slightly as she read them. It's happening, she whispered to Lieutenant Zhang, who had joined her in her office. Starforge is active. Zhang's eyes widened. After all this time. We have our orders, Ellis said, regaining her composure. We're to maintain normal operations for the next 48 hours. The Galactic Concord observers must not suspect anything until the first phase is complete. As night fell over the station, Ellis stood alone at the observation dome, watching the slow dance of construction drones around the defense platform. By this time tomorrow, everything would change. The careful deception humanity had maintained for over a century would be revealed, and the galaxy would never see them the same way again. The quantum probability factories were powering up. Soon, they would unleash manufacturing capabilities that would seem like magic to the other species. Humanity's greatest secret was about to be unveiled, not by choice, but by necessity. The coming dawn would bring with it a new era for humanity, if they survived the Zeraxian threat. Ellis touched the cool glass of the viewport. Slow and steady, she whispered, until we're not. The revelation. The transition was so subtle that anyone not specifically looking for it would have missed it. Commander Ellis watched as the construction drones around the defense platform gradually increased their speed, not dramatically, but enough that the platform's assembly rate had doubled in the past 6 hours. This was just the beginning. A careful calibration to ensure the quantum probability fields remained stable as they accelerated. Status report from Valkyrie Station, Lieutenant Zhang announced, entering Ellis's office with a secure datapad. Quantum field stabilization at 87% and climbing. They'd begun processing the first asteroid. Ellis nodded, studying the schematics on the display. Valkyrie Station, hidden beneath the lunar surface, had already consumed a massive nickel-iron asteroid, converting its raw materials directly into standardized ship components through quantum manipulation. The process didn't just assemble materials faster. It reorganized matter at the subatomic level, creating perfect molecular structures without the need for traditional refining and manufacturing steps. "What about the observer team from the Galactic Concord?" Ellis asked. Still on their scheduled tour of the agricultural domes, Zhang replied with a slight smile. They'd been complaining about how long it takes humans to grow simple vegetables. Ellis allowed herself a brief laugh. If they only knew. Throughout human space, the awakening accelerated. Hidden facilities that had remained dormant for decades hummed with power as quantum accelerators came online. Raw materials, asteroids, cometary bodies, stockpiled elements, flowed into molecular reorganizers that converted them directly into ship components at speeds that defied conventional understanding. On Mars, General Diana Rodriguez observed the first complete vessel emerge from Facility Olympus, a sleek destroyer, fully armed and ready for crew boarding, constructed in just under 14 hours. What would have taken traditional shipyards 2 years to build had been accomplished overnight. "Beautiful," she whispered, watching as the destroyer was moved to a hidden hangar to await its crew. Behind it, 3 more vessels were already taking shape, their quantum signatures carefully masked to avoid detection by passing ships or long-range scanners. In orbit around Saturn, Admiral Kazuo Takeda received the production reports from across the system with growing satisfaction. 117 vessels completed in the first 24 hours, he informed his staff. "At this rate, we'll surpass our projected numbers by 30%. The Zeraxian fleet, meanwhile, continued its inexorable advance toward human space, still days away from the outer colonies. Their long-range scouts reported nothing unusual, no sudden fleet movements, no massive mobilization efforts. As far as their intelligence could determine, the humans were continuing their normal, plodding pace of life and construction. Fleet Commander Vexstar studied the reports with his 4 eyes narrowed in contempt. "The humans don't even attempt to accelerate their preparations," he rumbled to his subordinates. "They continue building their ships and stations as if they have all the time in the galaxy." "Perhaps they have accepted their inevitable consumption," suggested his second-in-command. "Perhaps," Vexstar agreed. "Or perhaps they believe the Galactic Concord will intervene." He made a dismissive gesture with one of his upper limbs. "Either way, their worlds will feed our expansion." What the Zeraxian commander couldn't see were the hundreds of warships taking shape throughout human space, assembled at quantum speeds in facilities that appeared dormant to outside observers. The greatest manufacturing revolution in galactic history was happening right under their sensory appendages, and they had no idea. By the 3rd day of Operation Starforge, the transformation of human manufacturing capability was complete. Construction facilities that once produced a single ship per year were now producing 3 ships per day. Quantum probability factories had consumed entire asteroids, converting their mass into precisely arranged molecular structures at speeds previously thought impossible. Energy grids across human space redirected maximum power to the facilities. Some colonies experienced rolling blackouts as every available watt was channeled to the quantum manipulators. No one complained. Everyone understood what was at stake. Commander Ellis stood on the observation deck of her station, watching as the defense platform, which had been scheduled for completion 18 months from now, received its final components. The platform was now fully operational, its weapon systems coming online as technicians ran final checks. "It's still hard to believe," Zhang said, standing beside her. "I knew about Starforge in theory, but seeing it in action." Ellis nodded. "And this is just one platform. The shipyards at Titan have completed 67 capital ships since activation." On Earth, President Karim addressed the Federation Council again, this time with a very different tone. "Operation Starforge has exceeded all projections," she announced to the assembled representatives. "As of this moment, we have constructed 843 warships of various classes, all fully armed and ready for deployment. Another 512 will be completed within the next 48 hours. The council chamber erupted in stunned applause. Crew assignments, asked Counselor Harrison. All vessels will have qualified command teams, responded Admiral Chen. We've activated all reserve personnel and fast-tracked experienced cadets from the Academy. Training simulations are running around the clock. President Karim studied the production charts with a mix of pride and solemnity. After more than a century of secrecy, we're finally seeing the full potential of Dr. Hawkins' discovery. I only wish it hadn't taken a crisis of this magnitude to implement it. In deep space, the Xeraxian fleet continued its advance, still unaware of the massive force assembling to meet them. Their forward scouts had detected nothing unusual in human territory. No large fleet movements, no sudden increase in defense platforms, nothing that would indicate a significant response to their impending attack. What the Xeraxian scouts couldn't detect were the hundreds of newly constructed warships hiding in the shadow of gas giants, behind moons, and in the coronas of stars, their energy signatures carefully masked as they awaited the order to move. On the fifth day, Commander Ellis received new orders. She was being reassigned to the HFS Defiance, one of the newly constructed battlecruisers. As she prepared to depart her station, she took one last look at the now completed defense platform. "Take care of the station, Lieutenant," she told Zhang, who would be assuming temporary command. "I will," he promised. "Good hunting, Commander." The Defiance was unlike any vessel Ellis had ever served on. Its systems were perfectly integrated, its hull formed from quantum-aligned molecular structures that provided strength beyond conventional materials. The ship had been constructed in just under 27 hours, yet its quality surpassed vessels that had taken years to build using traditional methods. Ellis wasn't the only experienced officer being reassigned. Throughout human space, captains and commanders were taking command of the newly constructed vessels, forming the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. Admiral Chen addressed the fleet commanders from the bridge of the flagship Indomitable. "You all know what's at stake," he said, his image appearing on the command displays of each vessel. "The Xeraxian force will reach the Tau Ceti system in approximately 48 hours. We will intercept them at the heliopause and reveal the full extent of humanity's capabilities." On the sixth day, the human fleet moved into position. Over 1,300 warships, from fast attack craft to massive dreadnoughts, took up formation at the designated coordinates. Each vessel was crewed by determined personnel who understood they were about to make history. The Xeraxian fleet arrived precisely when predicted, their biomechanical vessels emerging from hyperspace in perfect attack formation. Fleet Commander Vextar was preparing to issue the order to advance when his sensor officer let out a startled cry. "Commander, multiple contacts, hundreds, no, over 1,000 vessels appearing on sensors." "Impossible," Vextar snarled, rushing to the tactical display. "The humans don't behave." His words died in his throat as he saw the massive human fleet arrayed before him. Ships of every class and configuration, all bearing the markings of recent construction, yet somehow, impossibly, assembled in numbers that should have taken the slow-building humans decades to produce. Aboard the Defiance, Commander Ellis watched the Xeraxian fleet come to a halt as they processed the unexpected situation. "Open a channel to the Xeraxian command vessel," she ordered. On the view screen, the four-eyed visage of Fleet Commander Vextar appeared, his expression shifting between shock and fury. "This is Commander Sophia Ellis of the Human Federation Starship Defiance," she stated calmly. "Your fleet is trespassing in human space. You will reverse course immediately or face the consequences." "How did you?" Vextar began, then caught himself. "This illusion does not frighten us, human. Your species requires years to build a single capital ship. These are holographic projections, nothing more." Admiral Chen's voice came over the channel. "I assure you, Fleet Commander, every vessel you see is quite real, constructed within the past week using technology we have kept hidden for over a century. We are transmitting targeting solutions to prove our point. Across the Xerexian fleet, warning signals blared as each vessel detected multiple weapon locks from the human ships. For several tense moments, Vex-Tar remained silent, his four eyes darting between displays showing the overwhelming force arrayed against him. "The Xerexian Imperium does not retreat," he finally said, his voice a low growl. "Then the Xerexian Imperium will learn a painful lesson today," Admiral Chen replied. "You have 2 minutes to reconsider before we open fire." The standoff lasted exactly 1 minute and 43 seconds before the Xerexian fleet began to reverse course. "A wise decision," Admiral Chen said. "Be advised that any further incursion into human space will be met with immediate force. We will be sharing our manufacturing capabilities with our allies in the Galactic Concord. The era of consumption is over, Fleet Commander." As the Xerexian vessels retreated into hyperspace, a cheer went up across the human fleet. The deception that had defined human technological development for over a century had finally been revealed, not as a threat to galactic peace, but as its salvation. In the days that followed, humanity's representatives to the Galactic Concord explained the full extent of Project Starforge to their stunned allies. The revelation of quantum probability manufacturing sent shockwaves through the scientific and diplomatic communities. Some species expressed concern over the deception, but most understood the reasoning behind it. In the end, humanity's caution had prevented an arms race, while preserving a capability that now offered protection to all peaceful species against threats like the Xerexians. A month after the confrontation, Commander Ellis stood on the observation deck of her new permanent assignment, the Defiance. The battlecruiser was part of a task force patrolling the border regions, ensuring the Xerexians kept their distance while diplomatic efforts continued. Message from Admiral Chen, her executive officer reported. "The Arcturians have successfully implemented their first quantum manufacturing facility with our assistance. Production exceeds projections by 15%. Ellis smiled. "Looks like the galaxy is changing faster than anyone expected." "Except for us," her XO replied with a grin. "We've been planning for this moment for over a century." "Slow and steady," Ellis said, watching the stars through the viewport. "Until we chose not to be."